Bigbossjock, part 26 of the reading. Tock, situation is about to go off. Bigbossjock radio show. Airing live on the mighty 750 kilohertz AM. Bienvenido al programa. Soy el locutor, el gran jefe. Al entrar a mí se encuentra nuestro único Dios. Él me ayuda a hacer esa rima. Por mi parte, yo doy gracias a nuestro único Dios. Siguiendo con parte 26 de la leída. Tock, situation is about to go off. Rolling back in the time. Oh yeah, we're in the year of 75. John used a disguise. Didn't though fit Manson's body type. Has a taller height. 5 days at Pelican's Bay. 75 been his long stay. 800 men during his incarceration. Entered at San Quentin, then was transported along with the other men upon his return, other prisoners, upon his return at San Quentin. Remember driving up to the gate. Big lights got put on. Entrance, exit door, then open. Depends which way you're going, entering or exiting. 10. His case, he was getting out of prison. John got in the car, glassed over were his eyes. Opened up real wide. Obviously, he was traumatized. Paula Sue sat at his side. First been me. Soon as he sat in the seat, outside the car, they hadn't greeted. John behind the wheel, speaking about Paula Sue and John, Sue said, "Look at her." She replied, "He didn't look all right." As John looked into his eyes, asked if he had a good time. She'd been rousing him weeks before about going in. John felt as if he hadn't needed to worry. Disguised as Charlie, little taller he is, wouldn't much matter. Laying in the bunk, along with playing cards, sitting at the tables, no one much would notice. As he sat in the seat, he mentioned that he understood that I must have not appreciated what was being done to me. At every turn of every corner, oral copulation with a gun put at my forehead, and oftentimes him taking me, or him being the one that was the abuser with the gun. Then he stuck his tongue out and made his eyes big and said he learned that, and told me to get in quite forcefully, in a forceful tune and not in a nice way, to get in the back seat and to stay out of his sight. Yeah, he was quite upset. Is that right? That's right, very much. And there was a bit about evil people in the jail. Well, yeah, he explained, thanks. He explained that thanks is to our one only God, Father in heaven. He helps me do the rhyme. And that's how I've been able to unlock my mind. Line by line. I'm winding. He mentioned Sue. Oh, and they let him know too. Oh, you understand, is Sue's father, and he in 75 was a syndicate leader, boss for the crime families. So the mob inside knew John, and they were quite upset about things that were going on. And I'm referring to the treatment of me. Look, everyone knew and referred to me as a Bruner. I didn't understand. I just knew they were the movers, the ones with the furniture, the store. And everything rhymes back to the store, so it confuses me in my mind. And that's all that was left, is those lines. And, well, I lived the rhyme, and here I am after all this time. And continuing on, well, Mob knows John. He then hadn't placed the hat. He did, but he put it back. And he didn't keep it on as often as he should have once he placed that hat. I believe, something like this. You can't return the hat back. Right? That's right. And he did have that habit of putting it on and taking it back off. Or did they place it on him? They place it on him and he'd take it off. He has the tattoos, they take them off him. No, that's right. Same difference. Once you because I remember him going with Meyer in 70. Yeah, and I don't know, but someone's going to expire. Yeah, I was 3. That was 73. Let me think. Bow wow wow. It's before I went to Vietnam, so I was 2. Yeah. Was I 2? That's right. Mm-hmm. Mom knows John. He then had him place the hat he had, but he put it back and then he put it on. And, well, here we are moving along. Wasn't part of the family. He instead joined another, same as had all his bloodline family. Barker Ranch, even Howard with Edith. That's who I knew as granddad and grandmom growing up, or grandmother. Either one, that's both of them. Well, if you knew them, it seems very out of character. Well, maybe for me and not for others, but I would have never imagined. Mormons, and fit the Mormon image. Went there out of care. Sure, I mean, they lived that lifestyle. Their friends were Mormons. Also, Mormons are CIA agents, many. DIA, CIA, State Department. They're placed in the government disproportionately. They're good at following orders. Sure, out of other religions, look at them in the clandestine services. How many of them, and I'm not saying across everywhere in the government, clandestine services. Intelligence agencies, was necessary to have dissociative identity disorder, to be another, an agent that won't ever remember once they're no longer at the agency. It's how the secrets get kept. Even Howard with Edith went there to the Manson cult out of care. Had gone to see Carolyn. All their children, in turn, they all became Manson cult members, including also Howard with Edith had the tattoos. All of them did. David with Lisa, that's John's siblings, younger ones. They're closer to my age than his age. 10 years approximately older than me. David's 10, Lisa's 8 and a half. Been there when I had those two. The others too. 2 years old, hung on the suede pants. Jim Morrison then on had. David for years to come noted how I'd been quite a fag, hanging on Jim's pant leg. Maybe he should get some suede. That way I could be okay. That was his statement. He would say, maybe I should get some suede. Jim held me also, along with sexually abusing me. Bastard child I am. Game that was played in my life was no man. Not one that wanted a bastard. Just another term with Sue. She was a prostitute. Many men she went through. Prostitutes have their relationships too. '75 San Quentin. In the yard, the parking lot, that yard. Parked in the car. Engine was still running. 74 Oldsmobile Tornado. Front wheel drive. Style similar to an Eldorado, but much more plain. blue-collar wood drive. Compared to the Eldo, wasn't very pretty. That made John upset. Grandpa drove Eldorados from 67 to 75. Then he changed. And speaking about Earl, drove a blue Nova station wagon with a type of cellular phone, cost 4 times the value, that much more than the car's worth. He explained that to me, Earl. We went to get a shave with a cut. Asked me how I preferred mine. Long hair I then had, Shawnee with his curls, Sue with her active, oh how cute. Really was because the scar, 3/2-inch incision mark, located at the cerebral cortex. There's more about that story coming up. Manson, along with Aquino, going back to the church. Both had participated, also been charged for the murder. Happened when he was supposedly locked up, speaking about Manson, incarcerated inside a prison. Nancy Joe, along with Carolyn Marie, Paula Sue, was with me. All of us had participation. This is before I remembered everyone. We're on site when the murder happened. Don't know yet who she been. Reported, though, was on the news. While riding in the car, sat in the back. John was driving, looked at me. News report said, been a mystery. I said, been my friend Charlie. Wasn't any mystery. Mom with I. Been there just some days prior. I mentioned all that. Went over was the report. Ain't any mystery. John was upset. Such as them been usual, he gave Paula the look, along with said, don't interrupt. He wanted to know more. She became upset, then glared at me, let known I wasn't to talk. Now I understand why. I know more, and I'll tell you in a minute. Not let known I wasn't to talk. Not about her. Said that maybe I'd been there, about the murder victim. Oh, about Paula Sue, excuse me. Said that maybe I'd been there, but she hadn't been. Go ahead, tell the story, but that I would be up. Someday I'd get it for murder if I wasn't careful about telling that story. Sue looked at me and let me know. John asked me he looked like. I replied, bushy curly hair. For bushy, I pantomimed with my hand, said it wasn't like John's hair, been more bristly. I had already mentioned Charlie, that he was my friend. John referred to him then as my friend. John continued to ask about his clothes. I explained there had been 2, not only Charlie but another. Man who also looked like Charlie, had on a disguise, looked as Charlie but had other eyes. And that's Aquino. And what happened in that conversation was I began to talk. Oh, he's going to punch Sue in the face. He's furious. She took hairs from he was there, he didn't know what had happened. And this is the way they implicate the people. Now let me get confirmation. Did he punch her or slap her? Exactly, punched her. That's what I thought. And hard. And she threatened, she said, she pulled out the remote control and she said, I got it in my hand. And I got a knife in the bag. He'll kill you. Because I belong to her. I'm Charlie Lucien. Bow wow wow. I know how. I go often to Vietnam. I'm just on my off time. I'm riding in the car. I do as I are ordered. That's what I do. That's Sue. She has the remote control. He won't be doing that again. I was 4. I was 5. And over was the war. I believe so. Was that summer? I think so. Very much, maybe. Exactly. 20 died. I'm not sure what part of the year the murder took place. It was in 75. What happened was John had agreed to go with Dan and clean up a church after something had happened there, and he didn't know what took place. This is how the cult works. See, surprise! Many secret societies do this. They don't explain the operation before you're involved, and as you're getting involved, you're so far involved that if you say anything or turn back, and say anything at a later date, well, you're over. See, you're implicated. Now, welcome to the group. You're another too. John, he was riding along. He did this, and he got involved. Well, he'd been at the church. On the news, it said there was hair follicles found. This is to you, investigators. DNA sampling was something new back then, and if you had the whole follicle of a hair, the person could be identified. Sue had plucked various hairs from John's beard the week prior, and he remembered because it hurt, and he had been asleep. And I think there was 3 in all. She plucked from his face with the whole follicle. She also took hair from his comb. Now there's a problem. Heather and him, they're close, and she can borrow his comb, and she uses it often also. And sometimes he'll loan her his comb. Well, this is what had happened, and some of Heather's hair was also mixed with his. The cluster that Sue had taken and put in a prescription bottle. 3 of his bearded hairs with follicles, along with a cluster of hair from the comb. At the end of the crime, when everything was being cleaned up, ready to go, only thing that John with Dan did was go in and sweep. She left the follicles. He was there. Why is he mad? Was he there the same time they weren't? That's right, at the very end, after the incident happened. So he didn't know what he cleaned up from. She left and was the one to shut the door, the last one out of the room, the cluster of hair on the podium. Investigators, at a later time, when they discovered the crime scene, found the hair not on the podium, but at the base of the podium. It had blown off with the shift in air from the door, apparently. Maybe from the circulation, the air. And that's key. And there's going to be some other key details. I'll give them to you right now. There's stools. Everyone, the sacrifice took place, I believe, in a baptismal font. She was put on the gurney, or she sacrificed in the chapel by the podium in the chapel, where in a font. That's right. That's what I don't remember. All I remember is they want me to look at her face. White straps. That's what's on the gurney. The imprints were left on her legs. Those will be tied back to the same model exercise piece of equipment that was sold at Macy's in 1975 at the Living Section Center. If you have credit card records, you'll see that Paula with John, where they went shopping often at Southland Mall in Hayward, that's where that was purchased. And it was also sent back to Paula through the mail after the crime scene. She did something with it. Oh, no. Excuse me. It was sent from Macy's. They didn't have one in stock, and they need to send it to her. Yeah, I need to wash the blood off it. She was very upset with me. So the white straps, they had fibers on the... Well, they put everything on me after these things happened. For years to come, the events. White fibers from the straps. They'll be on the victim's ankle. She was restrained, and that's the device she was restrained in. Dan's played on his 3100, as I mentioned before, partial play reading from the bank teller machine. Along with Nancy Jo, Heather at her side, they could be identified. Heather was 9 years old, I believe, at the time. 8. Nancy Jo was in her early 20s, maybe 20, early 20s. And they both could be identified. And she wasn't early 20s, she's probably 19 or 20. It was a UPS van she was driving. Heather was standing at her side. Those are all details that an investigator should know. Stool samples. A child, because of the size of the stool and also the analyzing that was done, it was determined that it was left by a child. They all defecated at the scene where she had been sacrificed. They also know from the excretions that they were females and one child. I believe that's what it was. No, they knew about Manson also, and his boot prints were found. Aquino, he defecated in the bushes outside. He wanted to show that he wasn't intimidated to defecate in front of the others. It was that he was more educated, and he was no fool, because one day their stool could be tied back to them. I believe he left his stool in the bush. It was by a fountain, but it was found somewhere else. In the garden area. So by the pool. That's right. Yeah. What else was found? He left a pair of shoes. His DNA these days, then they must have been preserved with the case. Aquino left a pair of his shoes. He took his shoes off. He wasn't going to have any prints, and he left them at the scene. Those are all details. That stool, the DNA, that would tie back to me. I was the child. And those other stools, well, they're the people that I mentioned. They're all women, mostly. And I don't believe John, he left one. Very much he did. Did he too? That's right. So then he did too? That's right. At the end, he didn't know why. Okay. And this is how they got him. And this is each member. Their initiation. They get duped. Tricked into doing what they do, and then they're a member of the group, and they also follow through. Cult psychology, it's what the Yankee American does. They're being led by gurus of the cult, and they're not able to think outside of the parameters. That's all for this moment. Sign off shortly, because I will be right back. I mean, I do have a beat, and I know about that. Staying with the time. Enjoying the rhythm. Right here inside of me, our one only God. Father in heaven, Allah. He helps me do the rhyme. I do give my thanks to our Allah, Father in heaven, our one only God. Soy el locutor, el gran jefe, al entro a mí, se encuentra nuestro único Dios. Él me ayuda a hacer esa rima. Por mi parte, yo doy gracias a nuestro único Dios. Por un breve momento, firmando fuera.